Thank you so much, Pili, for joining us here at the Dwelling Show. I'm super, super excited to have you on the show. I had Jason on the show, and I've been just dying to have you as well. So thank you so much for coming out today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ola. I'm
Oh,
excited.
yeah, awesome. Me too. Me too. We're going to talk a lot more about like mindset, not so much like multifamily. So I'm really, really pumped. Really, really pumped. But before
Yes.
we jump into the show, I just want us to tell us a little bit more about, yourself and what you've kind of been up to and like what you're doing currently.
Okay, so most importantly, I am the mother of two beautiful children, Luke and Lily. And Jason and I also have another child on the way, a little boy, due in July. So we're really, really excited. So, family first.
Yeah.
I'm a mother first when it comes down to it. How I got started in real estate investing is something I've always thought about. But Jason and I first met bartending back in 2003. And we've actually always worked together in some capacity. I moved to California around 2005, came back to New York 2009, started bartending at the same place. This time Jason was managing and I was bartending. And we got together around 2013-ish. And Hurricane Sandy happened around the same time in 2012. That hit the East Coast pretty hard. And Jason's family has a house lifting company. So during the last year Jason and I were bartending, we actually started helping out with the house lifting company. And Jason's always been a part of it, but we started helping out a little bit more. And I started taking the phone calls, and it started becoming really, really big family business. So once Jason and I decided to have our first child, it was sort of a no-brainer to move to New Jersey, where the school systems are a little better, and hop on full-time with the family company. One day, Jason and his father pulled me aside, and they're like, Pili, you can't go back to bartending, so why don't you get your real estate license, and why don't we start looking at properties to invest in, because there's so many properties that were just, the Jersey Shore, not even including the rest of the East Coast that got damaged by Sandy, but just the Jersey Shore alone, it was heartbreaking. It's really, really heartbreaking after Hurricane Sandy. There were so many homes that just needed to be fixed up. So that's what we did. I got my real estate license, started going on the MLS, taking a look at properties, and we picked up the first property. I think it was in 2014, 15, one of those years. I'm pregnant, so I can blame everything on pregnancy.
Right.
So that was basically how it started. We got our first property, and it was this mega huge thing that we did. Most people, when they first start, they either first start like with a wholesale, or maybe with like a cosmetic flip. What we ended up doing was taking this house on the Jersey Shore that was like a block away from the beach. We didn't only take it up once, we took it up twice. So we took this house and we built not only a story, a new first story, we built a garage. So if you can imagine, like a lot of people talk about popping the top or add-ons, we did the exact opposite. So this way we got to save that roof, use the existing home, but then just add a new first story and a garage, which took it above the BFE, the base flood elevation. And that was basically our first project. So that one took a little while. We didn't lose money, but we definitely learned a lot on that project when it came to numbers and financing.
Wow, I bet a lot of stuff. Thank you so much for that intro. A lot of stuff in there. So if I'm a dwell listener and I'm listening to this and I'm like, wow, so I'm bartending right now. I kind of want to go down the path of what, Pili has done with herself. Should I go get my real estate license? Do you think it's really important to have that?
It's an argument I've had with a lot of people. I say you do what's best for you. I got my real estate license, but Jason and I are partners. Jason doesn't have his real estate license. So it just I think it makes it a lot easier, and there's really no reason not to. There's more rules that you have to follow as a real estate agent, and you have a fiduciary duty to like your client or your customer, but I like to have a fiduciary duty to anybody I talk to. So anyone I talk to, any sellers that I talk to, I automatically tell them, you know what, I'm an agent. I have my real estate license, blah, blah, blah. So there are rules that you need to follow. But, you know, if you get like taken down because of these rules, because for the longest time as a real estate agent, I thought I couldn't wholesale. Completely wrong. My broker's completely on it with wholesaling. She's great. It's another avenue of business for us. So it really depends on what you need. I mean, I know a lot of high volume, amazing investors that swear that getting their real estate license has never been important. But then I have on the other side, there's a lot of high volume, amazing investors that do have the real estate license. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. I say, my opinion, go for it. It's like a 2-week class, depending on where you live. And then if you don't use it, you just stop paying your dues. Done.
Makes sense. Fair enough. Okay. Easy enough, right? Easy enough.
Yeah.
So going back a little bit as well, you basically said, okay, your, father-in-law put you aside and say, hey, you can't go back to your job. You have to join the family business and you now have to start doing real estate. How was that transition for you? And did you jump on that transition, or were you kind of like, I'm not sure about, joining the family business? Because a lot of people have that situation and they're like, I don't know if I want to work with my partner or definitely my partner's family. How was that transition like for you? I'm just kind of curious.
It was super simple. It was the easiest thing I've ever done. I was actually tired of bartending at that point. And so it was a kind of a breath of fresh air. And like I said before, Jason and I have always been working together. That's how we met. We bartended together. So we have a great working relationship. Our minds, if you want to get into a little bit of how Jason and I are different, are completely different. Completely. We match up so well. We're such opposites when it comes to like how we take care of things and just mindset and everything, that we just mesh in that way. And then his family they're just fantastic. And plus I was pregnant at the time. So it felt like I was being given this opportunity to not only start in another business, but just excel at it, because we had so much background in just construction. So it was really, really easy, an easy decision to make.
Fantastic. So then you made the decision, right? And then
Uh-huh.
you had some opportunity, as you said, sadly due to, Hurricane Sandy, you had some opportunities at the time, right?
Yes.
So tell me about this moving a house up and building. Well, what is that about?
So our first I guess our first business plan, and this is a very, very difficult. So our business plan has changed since then. Was to take these flood damaged homes, and like our motto is raising communities to new heights. And that goes on with how we have a background in house lifting. So as house flippers, we like to help communities. We want to beautify communities. We want to take communities that have been distressed and make the houses nicer, bring up the property value. Because after Sandy, these towns are just, you walk through, there's sand all over the place. Homes were like in the water. Homes were just damaged beyond repair. Even to this day, I just took a look at 5 homes in this one township, and they're just ruined. I mean, they have great bones, but nobody can live there. There's mold all over the place. It's still so sad that there's still homes. And this is 5 years past? And this is all over the nation. I mean, I can imagine from Hurricane Katrina, there's houses in Louisiana that are still in need. And then you have Houston, they just got that huge storm that happened there, and they're going to be in serious trouble for many, many years. So yeah, to off my tangent. So our business plan originally was to take these homes and lift them above the BFE and add square footage to them to give them value add. So our value add to these homes were either to add square footage by adding another another floor, or just by adding the garage, and then putting them back on market. So this allowed us to pay more for homes because we were putting more work into them. So imagine taking a small Cape Cod or a bungalow, and it's like this small little house, like a little house drawing, and then you take it and you turn that little Cape Cod into a colonial, a 2-story beautiful house, probably near a beach because it's a flood zone, or like near some sort of body of water in a nice town, a beach town, or even anything that needed any area in Jersey City that needed help, and you turn into this beautiful home. I mean, some of the homes we've looked at, I feel so happy about. But the thing is, our business plan was so hard to do when we first started,
So what were the
and we didn't
challenges?
realize that. Go ahead. What was that?
I was just saying, what were the challenges?
Oh, well, the construction, just for one thing. Like if you take your regular flip, which is what we like to do now, we take these cosmetic flips, we maybe add a bathroom, it takes 3 months, it's back on market. Those, it takes you from either 9 to like 15 months to complete these
Wow.
projects, because you have variances, you have permits, you have to disconnect all the utilities. I mean, we're basically taking a home and lifting it up. I mean, just that for the average person, I know how it's done, but just that for the average person, it's mind-boggling. Because I mean, just the construction and all the stuff that we put it alone, it's time consuming.
I
So
bet.
needless to say, after about a year or so of doing that, we backed off and started to do more, let's just say, more cosmetic projects. We
Nice.
did more cosmetic flips. We started wholesaling, and then we started getting into multifamily.
Oh wow. Okay. So you guys
Yeah,
kind of
it was a
pivoted it a little
transition.
bit. Yes. Okay. So wholesaling, right? That's like I would say natural evolution for a new or wannabe real estate investor to kind of go down that path of wholesaling.
Yes.
So what would you say to somebody listening to this and thinking, well, I don't really have enough money. I'm thinking of getting into this real estate investing. I've listened to podcasts, I've read some books. How can I get started as a wholesaler? What are the things I can go do today, tomorrow to kind of get my first deal?
Well, your listeners probably already know this, but network. You need to network. You need to find a mentor. I think the easiest way for you to do it, because we already had background in construction, we started fixing and flipping. So we had that background before we started wholesaling. So we already knew what we were doing. So the easiest way to do it is network, find a mentor, and then start building your buyer's list and start just talking to people, because you need to get people to start to know you personally. Because why would they trust you to find them a deal, or trust that the deal that you have is sound, unless they actually knew you? So start making those relationships. So I think the relationship building is probably the highest and best use of your time. Because I mean, granted, I mean, if you don't have any money, then you can't bring that to the table. If you don't have the deals, then you can't bring that to the table. So just start getting yourself out there and find yourself people to talk to, people that will take you under their wing. Maybe become somebody's acquisition manager first, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, I would definitely start with the networking.
So you mentioned, thank you so much for that. You mentioned mentors, right? And when people hear that, they think, ooh, guru, they think education, they think $5,000 at a seminar. What do you think about mentors? And do you really think newbies or wannabe real estate investors should have a paid mentor?
So as a newbie, I would say no, don't pay for it, because unless you're making money, don't be shoveling out thousands of dollars unless you absolutely know that this group that you're going into is going to pay dividends in the end. It's all about return on investment. Return on investment with your actual investments and your time. So it's your return on investment on your time. Really, it's networking, finding people. Like my first mentor, I found on Bigger Pockets. His name's Darren Sager. He was on Bigger Pockets, and I listened to his podcast, and actually Jason listened to his podcast. He was like, Pili, this guy is in Keller Williams, which is the office I hang my license with. And he happened to be in the Keller Williams office that was a sister office to me. So I found him on Bigger Pockets, emailed him, asked him if he wanted to go out for coffee, took him out for coffee, and he blew my little investment mind, because this was like back in 2013. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, so can we work on a deal together? He's like, no.
Wow.
And of course I was just like, okay. He's like, okay, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell this to all your listeners, especially the newbies out there. It's called value add. What kind of value can you bring to the table? So I am going to this guy, Darren, and I'm asking him to basically open his doors for me and let me into his systems and everything. But what kind of value am I bringing to him? So the very next meeting, I was like, I have a couple of deals that I found. And he was like, well, none of those deals work. I was like, yes, they do if you have a house lifting company. So we started looking at deals together. None of them actually worked in the beginning, but this started a really long, and to this day, a great friendship with a guy that I still consider a mentor. And I've never paid him a cent, but we've helped each other just grow since then. So yes, I believe in mentorship, and I believe that you're going to have to pay for it at some point. But if you don't have the money and you don't want to max out your credit cards, I don't suggest you do that. Some people have, but I don't suggest you do that. Find people in your network. Go to a RIA meeting. Go, call up, those books that you read. Everybody reads books. So all those real estate books, all those business books, call those people up. You never know. Like they'll at least, a lot of them will give you like at least a half an hour of their time. And just think of the things that you can learn in a half an hour from every one of those books you read.
Right.
The worst that people can say is no.
No. Mm-hmm.
And the
Totally
first mentor
agree.
I went to told me no, but he gave me a wealth of information in just one sitting of coffee.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It is.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So you were doing pretty well with the lifting up the houses. You did some wholesale. What did you guys do next? Did you go straight to the big stuff, which I can't wait to talk about, or did you have a little transition period?
So we started doing those big projects, and then we tamed down a little bit, started wholesaling, doing more cosmetic flips. Now we're getting back into the larger scale construction. But that's for another day. So in this in-between time, I met another gentleman that I consider a mentor, Clayton Morris. You can actually look him up as well. And he does turnkey rentals. So we sat down for coffee one day, and he was talking about his turnkey rentals. And I was like, that's cool. Okay. And he said he has them in Indiana and they're out of state. So I'm like, so how? I can't even think about flipping or doing turnkey rentals out of state. It's like mind boggling. But the price point was great. We took a look at the properties. Jason's sister actually lives in Kentucky, which is it was 2 hours away from where these properties were. And these properties were in D+ neighborhoods, but they were cash flowing, and the numbers, and Clayton had the numbers, and he had a proven system that he had done over and over again. So we talked to him and we said, because he was doing more single family, and we were like, do you have any duplexes? We'd love to look at your duplexes. So we took a look at these 2 duplexes, picked them up with him. The ROI on these things were 22%. I kid you not.
Wow.
They were fantastic. And we ended up striking a deal with Clayton where it would be more like we were funding the flip for him. So we bought the houses outright and then funded the flip. So we got to save a little bit of money on that. And lo and behold, after a year, we made we made our money back and then some. And then the funny thing is, towards the end of that first year, Jason started having this really crazy idea of multifamily. And he sits me down one day. He's like, I've been talking to these guys. He's like, he mentioned somebody named Joe Fairless and Gino Barbaro. And I'm like, what are you talking about, babe? And he's like, what if we did like an apartment building? And I'm like, apartment building? What? Yeah, like I kind of want to do like 100 units this year. I'm like, to hold the what? You want to do what? So my mind was just like was going crazy, because it was one thing to find the 2 duplexes and to go with a proven system with a guy that we knew, and we were doing really good with these 2 duplexes. But he started saying things like, oh, I can't even think of, like, just terms that like I'm putting my mind into that mindset that I had before. This, like, I wasn't against it, but I'm a lot more risk adverse than Jason is. So, and I need to know, like, to the T that something will work. So I knew that these duplexes will work because there was a proven system. And I hadn't studied multifamily, large multifamily, enough to know that, you know, it works and syndication works, and all of that. Just I just remember just being just bowled over. So Jason took, and I was still running the fix and flip, and both of us were doing that, but Jason took the next like 4 to 6 months learning about multifamily and reading books and getting on mentorship classes and actually paying for mentorship classes and really knowing what he was doing. And finally, he and our other partner, Kevin, they actually take down a property. I mean, I helped them because I needed to learn what they were doing. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we weren't putting our money into this crazy idea. But we took down our first property, and I was like it's like all of a sudden I could feel my mind just kind of like flip around. And I was like, that it works.
It works.
We actually did it. We own a 94 unit in Kentucky.
Congratulations.
So it was a great mind shift, but like things like economies of scale and all the things that you learned as to why large multifamily works, it's all true, because what ended up happening towards the end of that first year of our first 2 small duplexes in Indiana, Clayton gives us a call one day. He was like, you know, you guys are coming up on a year. Everything about selling these? I'm like, okay, because we were getting into the multifamily. We still had our fix and flip, and Jason and I are big on like shiny object syndrome. Yeah. So we knew we needed to let go of something, so it was perfect timing. So we ended up actually selling them back to Clayton at a profit. So it was fantastic. So we got rid of our smaller multifamily, started diving deep into large multifamilies, and that's where we are today.
Wow.
It's been a roller coaster ride of just like awesomeness.
That's good. I love that. A roller coaster of awesomeness. So let's kind of rewind back just a tiny bit.
Okay.
So you had the duplexes. You saw that, you know, Clayton's process worked just fine. You were doing great. You had these 2 duplexes out of state. Everything was just awesome, right?
Yes.
And now you jump on this roller coaster of awesomeness, buying a big apartment building, almost 100 unit. Can you walk us through kind of that mind shift or mindset process, and how did that go for you?
It's really, I mean, if I had to give anybody advice onto like mind shift and mindset, it's being open. Like, you need to learn, because diving into multifamily isn't just something that you can just, it's not like picking up a home. Like, yeah, your typical home, you might be, I don't know, investing between $10,000 to $100,000, even more. But with large multifamily, it's like millions of dollars. If you're syndicating the deal, you have a ton of investors looking to you for advice and support, and they're investing in you, especially if it's your first one. Since I'm thinking about it, key on investors when you're doing your first multifamily, remember this: they're not investing in the deal so much as they're investing in you. So make sure that you have everything straight, because with this first deal, when Jason did, we did largely friends and family. So when Jason went out there, it's most of the people that we got on board were people that were investing in him, and they knew that he was successful in his other businesses. So just a food for thought.
Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, I went off on that tangent. Now, what was I saying before?
No, we were just talking about like what was for you being like, Jason telling you, hey, let's go larger, and you're like,
oh yeah, mindset.
Yeah, like kind of how did that work for you? How did you jump on board?
So honestly, it wasn't until we actually took our first one down, because I needed to see it to believe it. Which is just, it's just how I operate. That's why the smaller multifamilies made sense to me, even though they were out of state, which is something a lot of people are really uncomfortable with. I was comfortable with it because I was comfortable with the investor that we were investing with. So it was a proven model. So even though I had read that multifamily worked and I had seen it in action, just until it actually happened to us, that we took our first one down, it didn't make sense in my head. As soon as we did, it was just like, okay, this works. Done. Fantastic. I'm done. We can do this.
I love it. So last question before we kind of go into the quick round. What advice would you give your younger self? I don't know, your 18-year-old self, 21-year-old self.
What advice would I give to her? I'm trying to think of something PG. My 18-year-old self, I would tell her not to be so afraid. Not to be so afraid of change, and not to be so afraid of saying no. Because if something doesn't work, like if you as an investor choose an aspect of real estate and it's not working for you, there are 100 other avenues you can take that is gonna work for you. Now, Jason and I have done a few, just in the few years that we've been doing this. But pick one, try it out, and if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. Try something else different, like do multifamily. And with multifamily, it takes a lot of work to get into it, but find a mentor, start working for someone, make it make sense for you. Because if it doesn't make sense for you, then just say no. It's really, it's easy for me to say now because, geez, that was almost 18 years old, was almost 20 years ago. Not to age myself or anything.
Right.
But don't be afraid to say no, and also don't be scared.
Nice. I like that. So we're definitely doing into the quick round. So these are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready?
Okay. I'll try and be quick.
First question. What makes Pili unique? So what's that differentiating factor that separates you from another guy or another girl?
The fact that I have Jason, number one, and nobody else has him.
That is so sweet.
I'm gonna end it with that.
Okay,
Jason,
I'll take it.
That's what makes me.
That is. I'll tell him. He's gonna get some points for that. Second one. What was the last book that you read, and what was the one thing that you learned from that book?
Oh geez, I am actually currently reading Never Split the Difference. For some reason, the author is escaping me.
Yes, it's the FBI negotiator, right?
Yes, it's one of those books though that I'm gonna tell you something honestly. I'm not huge on self-help business books. I have to read them and read them again. But I would have to say, just all the techniques in that book, they will change your life, and they will change your ability to negotiate. So pick up that book, read it and read it again, because this guy has years and years of experience with the FBI negotiating, and really like negotiate as if your life depends on it. And you'll be surprised how many more yeses you get than no's.
Wow. That is like, I have to get it now. I've heard of that book a few times, but I think I have to pick that up.
Read it.
Last question. So you've got, the kids, you've got another one coming, you've got Jason, you're lifting houses, you're wholesaling, you're taking down 100 unit apartments.
Yes.
What do you do for fun?
This is fun. What are you talking about? Every day I wake up and I'm like, Pili, you are so lucky to have the life you live. Like every day I wake up and I'm like, what do I get to do? It's not what do I have to do. It's what do I get to do? And when it comes down to it, like say my kids are sick. Okay, then I'll stay home. I get to stay home and play with my kids because I know that my business is running in a way that I can actually take a step away and take care of my children. So I lead an amazing life. I have no complaints.
I love it. The first step up towards success is gratitude. So just like having that gratitude,
Exactly.
it's just amazing. I love that.
I am grateful every day for the life I live.
I love it. I wish we could keep going. That's like a whole nother just podcast episode on its own, but of course we don't have too much time. So if I'm a dual listener, just listening and thinking, maybe I'm like a stay-at-home mom, listening to you saying, I want to be like Pili. Where can people connect with you? Where are you most active?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. You can look up my name, my Pili Yarusi, or you can look up our company, Yarusi Holdings. Or you can just simply email me at pili@yarusiholdings.com. That's PILI@YARUSI holdings with an S.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pili. Learned a ton. It was an amazing experience. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me on. So grateful to be here.